Hello and welcome back to the Air Armoury. I'm JRH and today I'm going to be talking about the Sussex Armoury. I'm currently in the town of Hailsham in East Sussex, 6 or 7 miles from the south coast and home to around 20,000 residents. Hailsham is best known for its cattle market and rope making history. However, air gunners will know it as being the home of air arms. A short walk out of the town centre and down the Diplocks industrial estate and you come to the Air Arms factory. And next to that you can see the premises of NSP Engineering, which I'll come back to later on. So I'm back from my field trip. Now, my purpose for showing you the Air Arms and NSP Engineering factories will become apparent later on. So, whilst Air Arms are one of the biggest and best British airgun manufacturers, they didn't actually put Hailsham on the map in terms of airgun manufacture. That crown belongs to the now defunct Sussex Armoury. I'm now going to tell you a bit about the Sussex Armoury and show you some of the things they made. The Sussex Armoury was founded in 1968, initially selling antique guns and replicas. I've got here a copy of a page from one of their old catalogues which showed some of the replicas they used to do. And their first foray into air guns was as an importer and distributor. Most notably, they were the sole UK distributor for Crossman air guns. I've got an old airgun magazine here with an original Sussex Armoury advert you can see there with some of the Crossman guns. And during this time they also imported a number of Italian-made pistols, some of which were actually marketed as Sussex Armoury guns, even though they weren't made by them. And these were known as the Panther pistols. Again, I got a copy of an old page of one of their catalogues. You can see up there the Panther pistols. And I've got here the Blue Book of Air Guns. If I go to the page for Gun Toys SRL, see here, they are a manufacturer of inexpensive barrel cocking air pistols and pistol carbines from Italy. It says Gun Toys SRL also privately labelled air guns for Scale Mead and Sussex Armoury of Britain. One of those models you can see there is the RO72, and that says this model was sold under the name Scale Mead Hotshot Deluxe and Sussex Armoury Panther Deluxe. And I have one of these RO72 pistols here. Now this one was bought from the Sussex Armoury by my dad back in the 1970s. You can see at the back there RO72 made in Italy on the other side and the Gun Toys logo there. So after Sussex Armoury initially entered the airgun world as an importer and distributor, they soon began making their own guns. Which leads us on to their best known gun, which in reality kind of became their brand, which was the Jackal. Now I've got an old magazine article here from 1980 which shows the Jackal. All the Jackal models, they're characterised by their black ABS military style stocks, and this advert shows 3 of their best known ones. We've got the High Power, the Parabellum and the AR7. Now I have here my Jackal Parabellum. As you can see, it's a very military style stock. It is a spring piston gun. It's a side lever which is tap loading. You can see the Jackal logo on the top of the compression chamber there. And if I just remove this top cover, easier said than done. You can see on the side of the barrel there, it says Sussex Armoury, Hailsham, England. Now I'd like to be able to show you the Jackals in the blue book, but unfortunately they're a bit conspicuous by their absence and they don't really have a lot of information at all. As you can see there, just a line with no mention of the Jackal. Now, as well as the ABS military style stocks, you can see from this page of their 1980 catalogue that they also made some wooden stocked guns. I believe this one here is the Woodsman and this one here is the Woodstock. The Woodstock was actually the same gun as the Parabellum, and the only difference, as the name suggests, is that it had a wood stock. And I do actually have a wooden stock here for that gun, so I'm going to cut the video and change it to that one. So I've changed the stock over and you can now see it as the wood stock next to the Parabellum stock for comparison. And most of the parts for these Sussex Armoury guns were actually made by NSP Engineering, which you'll remember from the beginning of the video, located next to the current Air Arms factory, but I'll come back to that later on. Now I'll take a few shots with this later on, but I'm going to put it aside for a minute, and I should point out here that if you're interested in that gun, it is the subject of the next Air Armoury video, so keep your eyes peeled for that. In the late 70s and early 80s, Sussex Armoury was starting to make a name for themselves, largely as a result of the Jackal rifles, and they were featured in a number of national and international airgun magazines and publications. Now I have here Airguns on Test, which is a one-off special edition of Airgun World in 1980. You can see one of the guns on test in that magazine is the Jackal High Power, and I also have here a copy of an article called Day of the Jackals about the Sussex Armoury Jackal rifles, and that's from the April 1982 issue of the US Guns magazine. Now around this time they also opened two retail shops, one in London and one in Manchester, and you can see the addresses of those there on this advert. And as well as the Jackal rifles that they manufactured, they also manufactured and sold a range of airgun accessories, and I have a selection of those here to show you. I have here a tin of pellets. You clearly see the Sussex Armoury branding. Now you could get these domed pellets in 177 and 22, although unfortunately I've only been able to get hold of them in 177, so I can't actually use them in my Jackal, which is 22. As well as these tins, you could also get these tubes of pellets. Now these are almost branded as Jackal rather than Sussex Armoury, but you can see it does still say Sussex Armoury at the top there. And again, you could get these in 177 and 22. And Sussex Armoury also made some .20 pellets called the Sussex Spitfires, and they offer use in the version of the High Power that was made in that calibre. And in addition to pellets, the Sussex Armoury also made a range of airgun darts and bolts. I have several Sussex Armoury targets here. Now these are just a few of a wide range of targets they made. These ones aren't actually original, these are reproductions. But what is original is my Sussex Armoury pellet trap. You can see this is a well used example, but it's quite well made, very sturdy. Simply just slot the target in like so. You can still see the raised Sussex Armoury lettering on the bottom there. Sussex Armoury also had a line of optics. I have here a 4x20 scope. You can see it there. It's branded as Sussex Armoury, although this one appears to have actually been made in Japan. Quite basic scopes, just with a standard crosshair reticle, plastic turret covers and a quite simple mount. This particular scope was purchased with the RO72 pistol that I showed you earlier on. As I've mentioned, this is a 4x20, but you could also get a number of other magnifications and lens sizes. Now, the last Sussex Armoury item I have here to show you is this Jackal pellet dispenser. As you can see, it heavily features the Jackal branding. It's a simple rotary design to keep 177 or 22 pellets, and You can see from the back here it had a self-adhesive backing, so you could then stick it to your rifle. Now this one obviously original packaging, which I keep as a bit of a kind of a collector's item, but I do actually have another one which I do use. And as well as the items I've shown you and talked about there, Sussex Armoury also made a number of other miscellaneous shooting accessories. I've seen things like binoculars and holsters, and even a Jackal branded knife. Just a very quick update, in the time between filming the video and uploading, I've also actually managed to acquire some more Sussex Armoury stuff. First of all, I have a catalogue from April 1976, which has that RA72 Panther Deluxe pistol in, as well as a few other things they sold and a couple of leaflets. Also managed to get a brand new unopened pack of Jackal darts, and also some of the tinned pellets in 2.2. However, though, in the same time I also sold my Jackal, so I still can't fire Sussex Armoury pellets from a Sussex Armoury gun. Unfortunately though, all good things must come to an end, and despite the success of the Sussex Armoury in the late 70s and early 80s, they fell on hard times and the company went out of business in February 1982. I have here a couple of excerpts from issues of the London Gazette, which is a newspaper that publishes statutory notices. This first one is from 17th February 1982, which has a notice in the corner up here, and that states, Replica Models Limited, trading as Sussex Armoury. Notice is hereby given, pursuant to section 293 of the Companies Act 1948, that a meeting of the creditors of the above named company will be held at the Chartered Institute of Insurance, 20 Aldermanbury, London, EC2. On the 19th of February 1982 at 12 noon, by order of the board, R.L. Marriott-Smith, Director. So things are obviously looking ominous there, and you'll notice that although trading as Sussex Armoury, the company was registered as Replica Models UK Limited, and that can be evident from the front cover of their 1981 catalogue. You can see at the bottom there, Replica Models UK Limited. Now the second excerpt from the London Gazette that I have here is from the 26th of March 1982, and that carries a notice stating, Replica Models UK Limited. Notice is hereby given that on the creditors of the above named company, which is being voluntarily wound up, are required on or before the 6th of April 1982 to send their full Christian and surnames, their addresses and descriptions, full particulars of their debts or claims, and the names and addresses of their solicitors. So, after the company had gone into liquidation, all the stock was sold off, and have a copy here of the advert for that sale, and that reads, the gun sale of the century. The Sussex Armoury is in liquidation, and by order of the joint receivers their entire stock must be sold off by public auction without reserve. All items, apart from bayonets, are brand new and in mint condition. They include over 500 sporting shotguns, other firearms, replica model guns, the country's largest stock, air guns, air rifles, air pistols and air ammunition, blank firing revolvers and starting pistols, knives and militaria, bayonets and other collectibles. The auction is scheduled for 2 days, around the 20th of April, preceded by 2 days of viewing. A catalogue will be available and the venue will almost certainly be in Hailsham, East Sussex. Now, whilst that was the end of the Sussex Armoury, it wasn't actually the end of the whole story. After Sussex Armoury went out of business, NSP Engineering kept making parts and began to put together and sell some of the Jackal rifles under their own name. These guns no longer said Jackal on the top, these were now sold as Air Arms. Air Arms made a few improvements to the guns, such as upgrading the sights, adding checkering to the wooden stocks, and making the cocking lever more user-friendly. Initially, Air Arms continued making some of the old Sussex Armoury models, such as the High Power and the Woodsman, before going on to manufacture some of the industry standard Spring and PCP guns, such as the TX200 and the S400. Now I have here the November 1983 edition of Airgun World magazine, which actually features a review of the Air Arms version of one of the old Sussex Armoury guns, the Woodsman. You can see there. Now, one last thing before I do some shooting and finish up the video. Some of the Sussex Armoury literature and adverts give a couple of addresses in Hailsham. You can see on this advert we've got Department 89, Sturton Place, Station Road, Hailsham, and on this target it lists 34 North Street, Hailsham. So when I was out and about earlier on, out of interest, I also went to see where they were and what's now in their place. This is Sturton Place, which now looks like it houses NHS buildings. And this is 34 North Street, which now appears to be occupied by an accountancy firm. So, the Sussex Armoury is long gone, but thankfully there are still a number of their guns, such as this one, still around. I think it's fair to say that the Sussex Armoury were quite an innovative and promising company on the British airgun scene, despite the fact they're only around for a relatively short period of time. Now, I hope you enjoyed that foray into the history of the Sussex Armoury, and despite being out of business for over 30 years, there's still quite a lot of interest in the company, as these Jackal rifles are seen as iconic airguns within certain shooting circles. And as a result, the Jackals, as well as other items they made, such as pellets and scopes, are becoming quite collectible and sought after. I'd like to say thank you to Mike Clayton from the Jackal's Lair for his help and letting me use some of his resources. He runs an excellent website dedicated to the Jackal rifles, and I'd encourage you all to have a look at it. It's www.jackals-lair.com, and I'll put a link in the description below. So last but not least, as I promised earlier, I'll put the ABS stock back on, and I'm going to take a few shots at some of those Sussex Armoury targets you saw earlier on. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep your arms in the air.